Welcome to Time Before Us, the channel where ancient history breathes again. Before time had a name, before the first human breath, there existed a world fierce, forgotten, and alive. Creatures of scale and silence, predators wrapped in. Feathers, titans that shook the earth. Lives erased, bones buried beneath eternity. But they are not lost. They are waiting. This is Time Before Us, where prehistoric worlds rise again, and the stories buried in stone finally speak.
The Sleepy Paleontologist: How Mass Extinctions Shaped Life on Earth. Chapter 1. The First Giants, Dinosaurs Rise After Disaster. 2,000 words. The story of dinosaurs doesn't start with the colossal beasts we often imagine. In truth, it begins in the shadow of catastrophe, in a world teetering on the brink of collapse. Over 250 million years ago, Earth endured its most catastrophic extinction event, the Permian-Triassic extinction, or the Great Dying. 90% of marine species vanished. On land, vast forests turned to ash, monstrous amphibians ruled crumbling river valleys, and countless species simply disappeared. It was a world where survival wasn't guaranteed, and yet, out of this devastation, the earliest dinosaur ancestors emerged. These first dinosaurs were far from giants. Small, bipedal, and cautious, they were agile survivors, able to exploit niches that larger, less adaptable creatures could not. Fossils from South America, Africa, and parts of Europe tell us that these early dinosaurs were experimenting with a wide array of adaptations: upright posture for speed, long tails for balance, and limbs built for endurance rather than brute strength. It's easy to imagine them darting through fern forests and volcanic ash fields, avoiding predators far larger and deadlier than themselves. In essence, they were the underdogs of a planet still reeling from disaster. Why did these small reptiles succeed where so many others failed? Part of it was sheer luck, being in the right place at the right time. But evolution favoured them too. Dinosaurs could regulate their body temperatures more effectively than their competitors, giving them a metabolic edge in fluctuating climates. Their diverse diets and versatile locomotion meant they could adapt quickly to changing environments. This wasn't just survival of the fittest in the traditional sense, it was survival of the most adaptable, the most innovative, the most resilient. By the late Triassic, dinosaurs were beginning to stake their claim. Early theropods prowled the undergrowth, hunting insects, small vertebrates, and scavenging carrion. Primitive sauropodomorphs experimented with browsing the first forests of ferns and cycads, nibbling their way to enormous sizes over millions of years. Ornithischians, the bird-hipped dinosaurs, began developing rudimentary defences: spikes, thickened skin, and other protective adaptations. Every fossil tells a story of experimentation, innovation, and survival against all odds. The Triassic was their proving ground. But survival alone wasn't enough. Competition was fierce, even in a world still recovering from extinction. The late Triassic saw yet another pulse of environmental upheaval, which cleared many of the dinosaurs' competitors from the land. In these moments of crisis, opportunity arose. Dinosaurs, already flexible and mobile, expanded into newly vacated niches. This pattern of devastation, followed by dominance, would repeat across Earth's history, shaping the rise and fall of countless species, and ultimately the dominance of dinosaurs for the next 160 million years. As the Jurassic dawned, the world itself was transforming. Continents slowly drifted, oceans widened, and climates became more humid and tropical. The new landscapes allowed dinosaurs to flourish like never before. Early theropods evolved into apex predators, their senses honed to detect movement from hundreds of meters away. Sauropodomorphs, their long necks enabling them to reach the tallest trees, became true giants of the land. Ornithischians diversified into herding animals with complex social behaviours, navigating the dangers posed by both predators and shifting environments. Dinosaurs weren't just surviving, they were thriving, reshaping ecosystems, and leaving an indelible mark on the planet. The fossil record paints a vivid picture of these first triumphant steps. In Patagonia, paleontologists uncover footprints of theropods running side by side with early sauropodomorphs, hinting at dynamic interactions between species. In Tanzania and Europe, skeletal remains reveal creatures experimenting with size, speed, and even primitive forms of defense. Across the globe, dinosaurs were slowly emerging as the dominant terrestrial vertebrates, a rise fueled by adaptability, patience, and an uncanny knack for exploiting opportunity. Yet even as dinosaurs rose, the shadow of extinction loomed. Volcanoes erupted, climates shifted, and ecosystems remained fragile. Every catastrophe was a test, a reminder that life on Earth was a delicate balance between survival and annihilation. But dinosaurs had learned the essential rule of resilience: evolve or vanish. Their bodies, behaviours, and life strategies were constantly refined to meet the challenges of a planet in flux. This evolutionary flexibility became their hallmark, a trait that would allow some species to survive, diversify, and eventually dominate continents for millions of years. Looking back, it's remarkable how small beginnings could lead to such monumental outcomes. From creatures scarcely larger than a dog, dinosaurs evolved into some of the most iconic, gigantic, and bizarre animals ever to walk the Earth. Their journey from near obscurity to dominance is a testament to life's ability to rebound after catastrophe, to innovate under pressure, and to thrive in a world that seems determined to end it. Every fossil, every bone, and every trackway from these early periods carries a story of survival against staggering odds. The rise of dinosaurs after the Permian extinction also teaches us a subtle lesson about life itself. Catastrophe often clears the way for innovation. Loss, while devastating, can create the space for new forms to emerge, sometimes in ways no one could anticipate. Dinosaurs thrived not because they were the strongest from the start, but because they were resilient, adaptable, and ready to seize the moment when opportunity arrived. In many ways, their story is a mirror for all life on Earth. Evolution is as much about timing and adaptability as it is about raw strength or size. By the end of the Triassic and into the early Jurassic, dinosaurs had laid the foundation for their long reign. They had learned to survive, to dominate, and to innovate. From the ashes of extinction, they emerged as the rulers of the Mesozoic world, setting the stage for epic battles, staggering sizes, and ecosystems that would define life on land for over 100 million years. And yet, as we will see in the coming chapters, their reign was not guaranteed. Mass extinctions would continue to shape, challenge, and sometimes even threaten these magnificent creatures, testing the limits of adaptation in ways both terrifying and awe-inspiring. Chapter 2: The Age of Dinosaur Dominance, Jurassic Expansion. By the time the Jurassic period dawned, roughly 201 million years ago, the stage was set for dinosaurs to move from fledgling survivors to true rulers of the land. The late Triassic had been a crucible, forging resilience in the first dinosaurs, but it was the Jurassic that witnessed their explosion into every ecological niche imaginable. Vast forests of cycads, ferns, and ginkgos stretched across continents still in motion. Volcanic activity reshaped landscapes while shallow seas encroached on the land, creating dynamic coastlines and wetlands. In this lush, evolving world, dinosaurs found the perfect conditions to diversify and dominate. Imagine the scene. Herds of massive sauropods, their necks towering above primitive forests, moving with astonishing coordination. These giants, such as early relatives of Brachiosaurus and Diplodocus, grazed steadily, consuming tons of vegetation daily, shaping the very landscapes around them. Their immense size made them almost untouchable to predators, while their sheer presence altered ecosystems, influencing plant growth patterns and creating pathways through dense forests for smaller creatures. The Jurassic was truly their era, a time when dinosaurs didn't just exist, they reshaped the world. Predatory dinosaurs also evolved dramatically during this period. Theropods, the carnivorous cousins of modern birds, experimented with size, speed, and hunting strategies. Smaller species, nimble and clever, stalked in packs, taking down prey through coordination and cunning rather than brute strength. Larger theropods evolved formidable claws and teeth, capable of bringing down young sauropods or rival predators. Fossil evidence from Europe, North America, and Africa suggests a diversity of forms that hints at a complex social and ecological structure. Predators and prey locked in an evolutionary arms race that would last millions of years. But dominance wasn't limited to sheer size or ferocity. Ornithischians, the bird-hipped dinosaurs, began experimenting with defensive adaptations from bony plates to spikes and eventually rudimentary horns. These early herbivores weren't passive participants in the Mesozoic drama. They were innovators, evolving strategies to survive in a world filled with hungry predators. Herding behavior likely emerged during this time, providing safety in numbers and facilitating more complex social interactions. The Jurassic period, then, was not merely a time of giant monsters. It was a crucible for behavioral innovation and ecological experimentation. Even the skies and waters saw dinosaur influence. While the first true flying reptiles, the pterosaurs, were not technically dinosaurs, they shared the world with them and competed for resources in fascinating ways. Early semi-aquatic dinosaurs may have exploited rivers and floodplains, scavenging or hunting fish, while shore-dwelling species developed adaptations for wading and foraging. Life during the Jurassic was not static. It was a dynamic, constantly shifting theatre of adaptation, competition and survival. The success of dinosaurs during the Jurassic was also a story of continental drift and climate. Pangaea, once a supercontinent, was gradually splitting into Laurasia in the north and Gondwana in the south. This separation created geographic isolation, which in turn accelerated speciation. Dinosaurs in South America began developing different adaptations from those in Europe or Asia, a pattern that foreshadowed the incredible diversity of species that would later dominate the Cretaceous. The world was simultaneously connected and fragmented, creating both challenges and opportunities for survival. Fossil sites like the Morrison Formation in North America reveal an astonishing variety of Jurassic life. Sauropods grazed peacefully beside stegosaurs, whose plated backs were not just defensive but may have played a role in communication or thermoregulation. Theropods prowled the same landscapes, leaving footprints that still tell stories of predator-prey interactions. Early ornithischians scurried in the underbrush, relying on speed, camouflage and social cohesion to survive. Each fossil is a snapshot of a living, breathing ecosystem, a world teeming with life yet still vulnerable to the next wave of change. But as dominant as dinosaurs became, the shadow of extinction was never far away. Localized volcanic eruptions, shifting sea levels, and climate fluctuations periodically stressed ecosystems, favoring species that could adapt quickly. Dinosaurs' success during the Jurassic was not inevitable. It was a testament to resilience, versatility, and evolutionary innovation. The period shows us a recurring pattern. Environmental stress may threaten life, but it also creates opportunities for species prepared to seize them. In essence, the Jurassic was both a time of triumph and a constant reminder of nature's unpredictability. One of the most fascinating aspects of the Jurassic is the rapid experimentation in form and function. Sauropods grew longer necks, experimenting with feeding strategies that allowed them to reach previously inaccessible foliage. Theropods refined their sensory systems, with keen eyesight and smell helping them locate prey across miles of dense forest. Ornithischians experimented with body armor and social behaviors. The very blueprint of dinosaur evolution was being rewritten, and each innovation increased their chances of survival, while pushing the boundaries of what life could achieve on land. As the Jurassic drew to a close, dinosaurs had not only survived, they had laid the foundations for the greatest radiation of terrestrial vertebrates the planet had ever seen. Their dominance was a combination of size, cunning, adaptability, and evolutionary experimentation. They had become architects of the landscape, engineers of ecosystems, and masters of their time. And yet, as the fossil record hints, this dominance was a prelude to even greater transformations. The world was heading toward the Cretaceous, a period of new challenges, rivalries, and eventually catastrophic change. Reflecting on the Jurassic, it becomes clear that the rise of dinosaurs was not a simple story of survival. It was a tale of opportunity seized in the aftermath of catastrophe, of adaptability in the face of environmental pressure, and of ecological innovation on a planetary scale. From small, agile survivors in the late Triassic to towering giants of the Jurassic, dinosaurs proved that evolution favors not just strength, but versatility, creativity, and resilience. Their success during this period is a reminder that life is both fragile and remarkably persistent, capable of remarkable feats when given the chance to adapt. By the end of the Jurassic, dinosaurs were no longer just survivors, they were rulers. They had diversified into predators, herbivores, and omnivores of every conceivable size and shape. They dominated land, influenced coastal ecosystems, and indirectly shaped aquatic and aerial niches. Their triumph was not just about individual species, it was a planetary-scale transformation, and while they would face further challenges in the Cretaceous, their Jurassic legacy set the stage for the most iconic, awe-inspiring creatures ever to walk the Earth. Chapter 3, The Cretaceous Begins, The Golden Age of Dinosaurs, 2,000 words. As the Jurassic faded, the Earth was once again reshaped by tectonic forces, climate shifts, and evolutionary innovation. The Cretaceous period, beginning roughly 145 million years ago, marked a new chapter in the age of dinosaurs, one of unparalleled diversity, dramatic adaptations, and ecological experimentation. Dinosaurs that had dominated the Jurassic now faced new challenges, new competitors, and new opportunities. It was a time when the very blueprint of life on land evolved faster than ever before. The continents were continuing to drift apart, gradually forming the familiar shapes of North America, South America, Africa, and Eurasia. Rising seas created shallow inland oceans, isolating populations and accelerating speciation. Dinosaurs, ever adaptable, responded with extraordinary innovation. Large herbivores like the sauropods reached staggering sizes, their necks long enough to graze entire canopies. Ceratopsians, the horned dinosaurs, and ankylosaurs, the armoured tanks of the Cretaceous, evolved defensive adaptations that rivaled even the fiercest predators. Evolution was a relentless experiment, with survival favouring the creative, the agile, and the well-armoured. Predators too underwent a revolution. Theropods diversified into forms that would become legendary. The colossal Tyrannosaurus rex in the late Cretaceous, swift raptors hunting in packs, and specialized hunters adapting to every conceivable prey. They were the apex predators of a world teeming with herbivores, and each evolutionary advantage, from sharp teeth to keen eyesight, represented countless generations of adaptation and refinement. For these hunters, life was a high-stakes game, and every misstep could mean extinction. But the Cretaceous was not only a golden age of size and ferocity, it was also a period of innovation in reproduction, diet, and behaviour. Ornithopods, like the famous iguanodon, experimented with new ways to process vegetation efficiently, evolving complex teeth and jaw structures. Many species developed sophisticated social behaviours, from herding to parental care, ensuring that young dinosaurs had a better chance of surviving the constant dangers of the Cretaceous world. Life had become a high-wire act of adaptation, balancing growth, defence, and survival in a constantly shifting landscape. The environment itself fueled these evolutionary leaps. Flowering plants, angiosperms, emerged and spread rapidly, creating new niches and opportunities for herbivorous dinosaurs. Forests, plains, and coastal wetlands provided habitats that encouraged experimentation with diet and locomotion. Dinosaurs were no longer just survivors. They were ecosystem engineers, shaping landscapes as they grazed, trampled, and moved through their habitats. Every footprint, every bite of foliage, every predator-prey encounter left an imprint that echoed through evolutionary history. Fossil evidence from this period reveals a staggering variety of life. In North America, the Hell Creek Formation preserves iconic species like Triceratops, Edmontosaurus, and Tyrannosaurus, providing a window into complex ecosystems where herbivores and predators coexisted in dynamic balance. In Asia, discoveries of feathered theropods hint at the evolutionary experiments that would one day give rise to birds. Europe and Africa showcase smaller, specialized dinosaurs, illustrating how isolation and local conditions drove diversification. Across the globe, dinosaurs were painting the planet with the colors of life in its most inventive forms. Yet, even during this golden age, threats loomed. Climate fluctuations, volcanic eruptions, and localized extinction events reminded these creatures that dominance was never guaranteed. Some species failed to adapt, disappearing from the fossil record. Others flourished, their survival tied to subtle advantages in behavior, diet, or physiology. This delicate balance of success and failure underscored a fundamental truth. Even the mightiest rulers of the land were subject to the forces of nature, and adaptability remained the ultimate key to survival. The Cretaceous also saw the refinement of behaviours that would define dinosaur societies. Herding, defensive formations, and predator avoidance strategies became increasingly sophisticated. Fossilized trackways and nesting sites provide clues about these social structures, revealing animals communicating, cooperating, and protecting one another in ways that echo the behaviors of modern animals. Life in the Cretaceous was not just about individual survival. It was about the survival of complex communities navigating an unpredictable world. As the period progressed, dinosaurs reached the pinnacle of diversity and specialization. From the towering long-necked sauropods to the swift and cunning predators, from armored ankylosaurs to the horned ceratopsians, the planet was a living tapestry of evolutionary brilliance. Each species was a response to the pressures of its environment, a testament to the relentless creative power of evolution. The Cretaceous was, in many ways, the culmination of millions of years of adaptation, a showcase of life's ingenuity at its most dramatic scale. And yet, despite this apparent invincibility, a looming shadow awaited. All the triumphs, all the adaptations, all the astonishing diversity would face a cataclysm unlike any the dinosaurs had encountered before. The end of the Cretaceous was approaching, an event that would forever alter the trajectory of life on Earth. But in this moment, as we look across the lush forests, the sweeping plains, and the teeming coasts, dinosaurs stood as the undisputed rulers of the land, each species a master of its niche, each ecosystem a testament to resilience and innovation. The story of the Cretaceous dinosaurs reminds us that dominance is fragile and fleeting. Success is not permanent, and survival depends on constant adaptation. Yet for tens of millions of years, these incredible creatures flourished, evolving into forms that would captivate the imagination of humans millions of years later. They were the living embodiment of evolution's creative power, a golden age of life sculpted by opportunity, challenge, and the unyielding pressure of survival. By the end of this chapter, it becomes clear that dinosaurs' reign during the Cretaceous was not a story of mere survival. It was a saga of innovation, social complexity, and environmental mastery. They were the architects of ecosystems, the rulers of landscapes, and the pioneers of evolutionary experimentation. And while the ultimate test of extinction still lay ahead, their legacy during the Cretaceous set the stage for some of the most dramatic events in Earth's history. A world about to face upheaval on a scale that would make even the mightiest dinosaur bow to the forces of fate. Chapter 4. The KPG Catastrophe. Dinosaurs' Final Hour, 2,000 words. For over 160 million years, dinosaurs ruled Earth with astonishing dominance, shaping ecosystems, innovating in size, behavior, and diet, and astonishingly adapting to a changing planet. Yet, all their triumphs came to a sudden, dramatic halt, approximately 66 million years ago, during the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction event, the KPG catastrophe. This was a disaster so sudden and so massive that it reshaped life on Earth forever, wiping out nearly 75% of all species, including every non-avian dinosaur. The story begins with the world as dinosaurs knew it. Lush forests, sprawling plains, and coastlines teeming with life. Tyrannosaurus rex stalked its prey, Triceratops herds grazed in synchronized movements, and giant sauropods roamed far and wide. Dinosaurs were at their evolutionary peak, diverse and thriving. Then, almost overnight in geological terms, the rules changed. A massive asteroid, tens of kilometers wide, struck near what is now the Yucatan Peninsula, forming the Chicxulub crater. The impact unleashed energy equivalent to billions of atomic bombs, instantly vaporizing landscapes and sending shockwaves across the globe. The immediate effects were catastrophic. Mega tsunamis reshaped coastlines, forests were set ablaze, and immense amounts of debris were thrown into the atmosphere. Sunlight was blocked by dust and soot, plunging the Earth into darkness for months. Without sunlight, photosynthesis halted, collapsing plant life, and in turn, the herbivores that relied on it. Predators, no matter how fearsome, were left without food. Within a short span of time, entire ecosystems collapsed. It wasn't just the asteroid's initial blast that doomed the dinosaurs. The aftermath triggered a cascade of environmental disasters. Acid rain fell from the skies, oceans became acidic, and volcanic activity elsewhere may have compounded the chaos. Temperatures swung wildly, scorching heat in some areas, freezing cold in others. Life that had survived countless other extinction events suddenly found itself overwhelmed by forces far beyond its capacity to adapt. For dinosaurs, Survival required instantaneous miracles on a planetary scale. Some species fared slightly better than others. Smaller, more versatile dinosaurs may have survived a few years longer, finding food in niches inaccessible to larger predators or herbivores. Feathered species, including the ancestors of modern birds, may have had an advantage due to their smaller size, faster reproductive rates, and ability to exploit varied food sources. Yet for the mighty giants, the long-necked sauropods and massive theropods, there was no escape. Fossil evidence shows a sudden, stark disappearance, with entire lineages ending abruptly, leaving behind only fragmented remnants in the rock record. This was not a gradual decline. It was sudden, brutal, and total. Fossils from the boundary layer, a thin band of rock worldwide containing high concentrations of iridium, rare on Earth but common in asteroids, mark the final moments of these magnificent creatures. Scientists can almost reconstruct the sequence of destruction, the impact, the shockwaves, the fires, the darkness, the collapse of food chains. It is a chilling reminder that even the most dominant species are vulnerable to forces beyond their control. Yet, as devastating as the KPG extinction was, it also set the stage for the rise of new life. The disappearance of dinosaurs opened ecological niches that had been closed for millions of years. Mammals, once small and overshadowed, began to diversify rapidly. Birds, the living descendants of feathered theropods, survived and eventually radiated into countless forms. Plants rebounded, evolving flowering species that would dominate the post-Cretaceous world. The asteroid didn't just destroy life, it reshaped it, creating a world ready for the next evolutionary experiment. Fossil sites from this period reveal dramatic evidence of the extinction's speed. In North America, the sudden disappearance of large dinosaur bones above the KP boundary shows that their decline was almost instantaneous in geological terms. In South America and Asia, similar patterns emerge, highlighting the global scale of the catastrophe. It was not a regional crisis, it was a planetary event, affecting every continent and almost every ecological system. The KPG extinction teaches a profound lesson about life's fragility and resilience. Dinosaurs, some of the most successful and dominant creatures in Earth's history, could not survive a single cosmic event. And yet, life itself endured. Evolution didn't stop, it redirected. Mammals seized the moment, giving rise to forms that would eventually dominate the planet. Birds carried the legacy of dinosaurs into the modern era. In this way, the end of non-avian dinosaurs was not the end of their story, but a transformation, a handover of the Earth to the next generation of life. Paleontologists and geologists continue to study the KP extinction to understand its full scope. Using computer simulations, chemical analysis of rock layers, and fossil evidence, scientists reconstruct the sequence of devastation with increasing precision. Each new discovery, from a fossilized nest buried by impact debris to a fragment of dinosaur bone scorched by fire, adds texture to a story that is both tragic and awe-inspiring. We see a planet rocked to its core, life tested beyond limits, and the resilience of evolution in its aftermath. As dramatic as the KPG event was, it's also a story of perspective. For over 160 million years, dinosaurs thrived, adapted, and evolved, surviving multiple challenges along the way. Their sudden demise reminds us of the delicate balance between life and environmental forces. The KP extinction was a cosmic reset, but it also highlighted the enduring potential of life to recover, adapt, and flourish in entirely new ways. Looking back, it's almost impossible not to feel awe. Dinosaurs, which had ruled continents for more than 160 million years, fell in the blink of geological time, and yet, from that darkness emerged new opportunities, new forms, and a new chapter in Earth's story. The asteroid ended the reign of the dinosaurs, but it also set the stage for mammals, birds, and eventually humans to evolve, proving that life, in its relentless drive, finds a way even in the face of unimaginable catastrophe. The KP catastrophe marks both an ending and a beginning. It's a story of unparalleled destruction and of the resilience that follows. For the dinosaurs, it was the final curtain. For the Earth, it was the dawn of a new age, one in which the survivors would shape the planet in ways their mighty predecessors never could. And as we study the bones, the rocks, and the traces left behind, we are reminded that life is fragile, fleeting, and yet endlessly inventive. Chapter 5, Life After the Dinosaurs, Mammals and the Post-Cretaceous World, 2,000 words. The asteroid had passed, the skies cleared, and a silence unlike any other blanketed the Earth. The world that the dinosaurs had dominated for over 160 million years was suddenly emptied of its kings and queens. Forests were burned, oceans unsettled, and the once mighty megafauna were gone. Yet life, as it always does, refused to surrender. From the shadows of extinction, a new generation of creatures began to rise. Mammals, small and often overlooked during the age of dinosaurs, now had a chance to claim the Earth. For millions of years, mammals had survived in the margins, primarily small, nocturnal, and largely hidden. Their lives were lived in the underbrush, in burrows, or within the shadow of the giants that walked the land. But the disappearance of non-avian dinosaurs created ecological voids that mammals could exploit. Food sources once monopolized by large herbivores became available, and predatory niches once dominated by colossal theropods were suddenly open. The stage was set for a dramatic evolutionary explosion. The early Paleogene period witnessed a remarkable diversification of mammalian life. From tiny shrew-like insectivores, some weighing only a few grams, to the first large browsing forms resembling miniature deer, mammals evolved at an astonishing rate. Teeth adapted for chewing tougher plants appeared, allowing herbivores to exploit the recovering vegetation. Predatory mammals developed sharper teeth, stronger jaws, and faster reflexes, honing hunting strategies that mirrored, in some ways, the apex predators they had once avoided. Evolution was now unrestrained, fueled by opportunity and absence of competition. Birds too survived the Cape Year catastrophe. The feathered descendants of theropod dinosaurs found new niches to occupy. With dinosaurs gone, many of the evolutionary pressures that had constrained them vanished, allowing birds to diversify into forms that could exploit the skies, wetlands, and forests in ways previously impossible. In this period, flight became an evolutionary advantage not just for survival, but for exploration and colonization of new habitats. The sky, once dominated by pterosaurs, now had room for these resilient survivors to flourish. Plant life rebounded alongside animal life. Angiosperms, flowering plants, expanded dramatically, altering ecosystems. Forests thickened, plains spread, and wetlands returned, offering both food and shelter to the rapidly evolving fauna. This proliferation of plants further encouraged diversification among herbivorous mammals and birds. Life was reorganizing itself on a planetary scale, demonstrating that extinction, while devastating, also creates new opportunities for survival and innovation. Fossil records from this post-dinosaur world illustrate an exciting story of experimentation and adaptation. In North America, fossils show early ungulates browsing the recovering forests, while predatory creodonts and other carnivorous mammals evolved hunting strategies tailored to these new herbivores. In Asia, small arboreal mammals developed gliding adaptations, while others evolved specialized teeth to exploit newly abundant plant resources. Across the globe, mammals were rapidly filling ecological niches once dominated by dinosaurs, proving that evolution is opportunistic, resilient, and often astonishingly fast in the absence of competition. Despite their small size, mammals displayed remarkable adaptability. Burrowing behaviors protected them from climatic extremes and occasional predators. Social structures emerged, facilitating cooperation in feeding, nesting, and defense. This period was as much about behavioral innovation as it was about physical evolution. The mammals of the Paleogene were not just surviving, they were learning, experimenting, and thriving in ways that foreshadowed their eventual dominance in the Cenozoic. Yet the shadow of extinction lingered. The KPE event had altered the climate and landscape so drastically that life remained fragile for thousands of years. Food shortages, temperature fluctuations, and localized disasters continued to challenge survivors. Only species capable of adaptability, flexibility, and opportunistic behavior could thrive in this reshaped world. Mammals, with their varied diets, reproductive strategies, and behavioral plasticity, were perfectly suited to this new era. They were small, but they were resilient, and resilience would prove to be the defining trait of post-dinosaur life. The rise of mammals also demonstrates a crucial point about evolution. Dominance is never permanent. Dinosaurs had ruled for over 100 million years, yet they were gone almost overnight. Mammals, once marginal players, became the new architects of Earth's ecosystems. This shift illustrates a recurring pattern in the history of life. Extinction paves the way for opportunity, and opportunity rewards adaptability. Life is not linear. It is a series of collapses and rebounds, each shaping the trajectory of evolution in profound ways. By the end of the Paleogene, mammals had diversified into forms that would define the planet for millions of years. Small insectivores evolved into primates, carnivores, and large grazers. Their success laid the groundwork for future megafauna, including creatures that would eventually rival the dinosaurs in size and ecological influence. Birds, mammals, and flowering plants together reconstructed the world into a complex, interconnected web of life, resilient but forever marked by the loss of its former rulers. The post-dinosaur world reminds us that extinction is both an end and a beginning. The KPG event ended the reign of non-avian dinosaurs, but it also ignited an evolutionary renaissance. It allowed mammals to explore opportunities previously unavailable, and set the stage for new ecological dynamics that continue to this day. In studying this period, we see that life's resilience is extraordinary. Even when faced with planetary-scale disasters, it adapts, innovates, and rebounds. The Earth had been reshaped, but it had not been defeated. In the quiet aftermath, the Earth was alive with potential. Mammals and birds were small, yet dynamic and inventive. Forests recovered, rivers teemed with life, and oceans stabilized. Life had survived the most catastrophic extinction in the history of dinosaurs, and the survivors were writing the next chapter in Earth's story. The rise of mammals after the dinosaurs' demise is a testament to the relentless power of evolution, the importance of adaptability, and the incredible capacity of life to seize opportunity in the wake of disaster. As we reflect on this transformation, it becomes clear that the end of the dinosaurs was not the end of life's story, but a pivotal moment of renewal. Life, resilient and inventive, had found a way to continue, setting the stage for future giants, complex ecosystems, and eventually the rise of humans. From the ashes of extinction, a new era of life dawned, one that owed its very existence to the catastrophic events that ended the age of dinosaurs. Chapter 6: Ice Age. Precursors. Environmental pressures on emerging mammals, 2,000 words. After the age of dinosaurs ended, life on Earth entered a period of intense transformation. The planet was still recovering from the KP catastrophe, and new environmental pressures began shaping the next great wave of evolution. Mammals, now the dominant terrestrial animals, faced a rapidly changing world. Continents drifted further apart, climates fluctuated dramatically, and vegetation patterns shifted with each passing epoch. These changes laid the groundwork for adaptations that would eventually define the Ice Ages, a period of climatic extremes that tested the resilience of life like never before. The Paleogene period saw the Earth's climate generally warmer than today, but it was punctuated by episodes of cooling and warming that created environmental stresses. Dense forests gave way to more open plains, forcing herbivores to evolve new strategies for feeding and avoiding predators. Some mammals grew larger to process tougher vegetation efficiently, while others developed speed, agility, and social behaviors for survival. Predatory mammals, too, evolved new hunting strategies, learning to exploit these changing landscapes with remarkable efficiency. The post-dinosaur world was a laboratory of evolution, where environmental pressures dictated who would thrive and who would vanish. Volcanic activity and tectonic shifts also played a crucial role. Rising mountain ranges such as the Himalayas and the Rockies altered wind patterns, rainfall, and temperature distribution, creating microclimates and isolated ecosystems. These isolated regions became hotbeds of speciation, driving mammals to develop specialized adaptations. Animals in colder regions evolved thicker fur and insulating layers, while species in tropical areas experimented with agility, camouflage, and arboreal lifestyles. Evolution was not uniform. It was highly contextual, dictated by the subtle pressures of geography, climate, and competition. The oceans, too, were in flux. Sea levels rose and fell repeatedly, reshaping coastlines and creating new habitats for marine mammals, fish, and birds. Coral reefs and shallow seas became breeding grounds for evolutionary experimentation, supporting a wealth of species that would influence terrestrial ecosystems through predation, nutrient cycling, and interspecies interactions. Even small mammals benefited indirectly. changes in ocean productivity affected rainfall, plant growth, and the availability of resources on land, illustrating the interconnectedness of global ecosystems. As forests receded and grasslands expanded during the late Paleogene, herbivorous mammals underwent dramatic transformations. Teeth adapted for grinding tougher plants appeared, digestive systems evolved to handle high-fiber diets, and body sizes increased to support grazing over vast distances. Herding behavior became increasingly advantageous, offering protection from predators and facilitating the management of resources. Social structures became more complex, laying the foundation for behaviors observed in later large mammals during the Ice Ages. The pressures of environmental change encouraged innovation, not just in anatomy but in behavior and survival strategies. Predators followed suit. Carnivorous mammals evolved to keep pace with the growing herbivores. Some species became fleet-footed hunters capable of pursuing prey over long distances, while others developed cooperative hunting strategies reminiscent of modern wolves. The arms race between predator and prey intensified, mirroring the dynamics seen during the age of dinosaurs but now on a mammalian stage. Evolutionary pressures, once dominated by the colossal dinosaurs, now sculpted creatures that were smaller but clever, adaptable, and increasingly specialized. Global climate fluctuations during this time foreshadowed the Ice Ages to come. Periodic cooling events led to changes in vegetation and the distribution of species, creating selective pressures that favored adaptability and resilience. Mammals that could survive temperature swings, find food in varied conditions, and reproduce successfully were the ones that persisted. Others disappeared, leaving gaps that new species would fill. Life had entered a dynamic equilibrium, a constant balancing act between environmental challenges and evolutionary opportunity. Fossil records from this period provide remarkable insight into these transformations. In Europe, small forest-dwelling mammals evolved climbing adaptations, using trees to evade predators and exploit food sources. In North America, early ungulates developed limb and dental adaptations for grazing in open plains, while carnivores adapted to hunting these increasingly mobile herbivores. Asia and Africa showcased the diversification of social behaviors, from pack hunting to herd protection, reflecting the growing complexity of mammalian societies in response to environmental pressures. Evolution was not just survival, it was innovation under pressure. The Ice Age precursors also highlight the role of isolation and geographic separation in evolution. As continents shifted and oceans expanded, populations of mammals were cut off from one another, leading to unique adaptations in different regions. These isolated populations became the ancestors of many of the iconic species of the later Pleistocene, including mammoths, saber-toothed cats, and giant ground sloths. Evolution, it seems, thrives on both challenge and isolation, producing remarkable diversity when pressures are high and opportunities abound. The post-dinosaur era reminds us that extinction events, while devastating, often serve as catalysts for innovation. Mammals, once small and marginal, thrived in the aftermath of catastrophe. Their adaptations during this period laid the foundation for the Ice Ages, periods of extreme cold and environmental stress that would once again test the resilience of life on Earth. The lessons of survival, flexibility, and innovation learned in these early epochs ensured that mammals were prepared for the next great challenge, a challenge that would test the limits of endurance, ingenuity, and adaptation on a planetary scale. By the end of the Paleogene, mammals had transformed from hidden survivors into dominant players on the global stage. The Earth was, once again, a world of opportunity shaped by environmental pressures that favored adaptability, intelligence, and resilience. The stage was set for the next chapter of evolution, one in which ice, cold, and fluctuating climates would shape the destiny of life, producing giants and specialists that would rival the dinosaurs of the past. These precursors to the Ice Ages demonstrate that life is not just about surviving the present, but preparing for the uncertain future, a lesson written in bones, fossils, and the echoes of ancient ecosystems. Chapter 7: Mammalian Giants: Dominance and Adaptation. During early Ice Ages, 2,000 words. As the planet edged closer to the Pleistocene epoch, the precursors of the Ice Ages intensified. Cooling climates, fluctuating sea levels, and expanding grasslands reshaped ecosystems, forcing life to adapt in dramatic ways. Mammals, having already surged in diversity after the demise of dinosaurs, now faced a world where survival demanded more than agility or intelligence. It required size, endurance, and specialized adaptations. In this era, mammalian giants emerged, taking on roles once dominated by the colossal dinosaurs and carving out their own dominion over the Earth. Among the most iconic were the proboscideans, ancestors of modern elephants. Mammoths, some reaching over 4 meters at the shoulder, roamed vast tundras and steppe grasslands. Thick fur, layers of fat, and long tusks allowed them to survive sub-zero temperatures, dig through snow to reach buried vegetation, and fend off predators. Their enormous size made them virtually invulnerable to smaller predators, echoing the dominance once held by sauropods in the Jurassic. These giants were ecosystem engineers, altering landscapes as they fed, trampled, and migrated, spreading seeds and shaping plant communities across continents. Equally impressive were the giant ground sloths of South America. Towering over humans and most contemporary mammals, these creatures were slow but incredibly strong, capable of stripping trees bare for food. Their massive claws could dig up roots or defend against predators, while their bulk allowed them to store energy in times of scarcity. Just as the dinosaurs had once dominated forests and plains, these sloths became symbols of mammalian power and adaptability. Their presence reminds us that ecological dominance does not rely solely on speed or predation, but also on the ability to exploit resources in unique ways. Carnivorous mammals adapted alongside these herbivorous giants. Saber-toothed cats, including Smilodon, developed elongated canine teeth and powerful forelimbs, perfect for taking down massive prey. They were ambush predators, relying on stealth, strength, and precision rather than endurance, a strategy finely tuned to the open grasslands and fragmented forests of the Ice Age precursors. Packs of wolves and large canids evolved hunting strategies for endurance, chasing prey over vast distances, a different approach that highlighted the diverse survival tactics mammals employed in response to environmental pressures. The Ice Age precursor ecosystems were also marked by remarkable behavioral adaptations. Herding became widespread among herbivores, providing protection against predators and enhancing reproductive success. Migration patterns emerged as seasonal changes forced animals to travel in search of food and water. Predators, in turn, adapted by developing social cooperation, stalking strategies, and heightened senses. Fossilized trackways and fossil assemblages reveal a complex web of interactions, illustrating the dynamic balance of these early cold-adapted ecosystems. Life was not only surviving, but thriving in an environment that demanded ingenuity and resilience. Climate was a relentless sculptor during this time. Glacial periods advanced and receded, altering habitats and creating selective pressures for mammals of all sizes. Fur, fat layers, and changes in body size became essential survival traits. Bergmann's rule, which states that species in colder regions tend to have larger body masses to conserve heat, became evident in the fossil record. Evolution was acting on a large scale, favouring not just survival, but optimization for a harsh and unpredictable world. Every adaptation, from teeth to limbs to social behaviour, told a story of life responding to pressure with astonishing creativity. Isolation played a critical role as well. Continental drift and glaciation created isolated populations, leading to unique evolutionary experiments. In North America, mammoths diverged from their African relatives to become massive cold-adapted grazers. In South America, ground sloths and glyptodonts evolved unique defensive adaptations, some resembling armoured tanks. Africa and Eurasia saw the rise of large bovids and other herbivores exploiting open savannas. This geographic isolation mirrored the evolutionary pressures that had once driven the diversification of dinosaurs, demonstrating that life repeatedly responds to similar challenges with similar solutions, even across entirely different lineages. Fossils reveal not only anatomy but behaviour. Evidence of bite marks, healed injuries, and worn teeth suggest social interaction, competition, and survival strategies. Herds of mammoths protected young individuals from predators, while saber-toothed cats likely coordinated hunting efforts to tackle formidable prey. Mammalian societies were becoming increasingly complex, a reflection of the selective pressures imposed by a changing climate and the need for cooperation in a challenging environment. Life was learning to navigate a planet in flux, preparing for the extremes of the ice ages that lay ahead. One of the most remarkable aspects of this period is the sheer diversity of mammalian giants. From towering proboscideans to heavily armoured glyptodonts, from swift predators to slow, strategic herbivores, mammals evolved to occupy every conceivable niche. Their rise illustrates the power of adaptability and opportunity. The extinction of dinosaurs had left ecological space, and mammals seized it, pushing evolution to new heights. This was not a slow, gradual process. It was explosive, a reminder that life thrives when competition is removed and innovation is rewarded. Yet the rise of these giants was also precarious. Climate continued to fluctuate, vegetation changed, and predators constantly pressured herbivores to evolve faster. Survival was never guaranteed. Extinction remained a looming threat, as it had been for the dinosaurs. The Ice Age precursors demanded not just size, but intelligence, adaptability, and cooperation. Those species that could respond rapidly to environmental stress, exploit new niches, and develop strategies for survival became the dominant forces in these evolving ecosystems. By the end of this chapter, it is clear that mammals were not merely filling the void left by dinosaurs, they were redefining what it meant to dominate a planet. They became ecosystem engineers, apex predators, and specialists, illustrating the evolutionary principle that life's opportunities are often born from catastrophe. The Ice Age precursors set the stage for the epic dramas of survival, adaptation, and competition that would unfold over the next several million years, culminating in the truly iconic creatures of the Pleistocene and shaping the modern world as we know it. Mammals had taken the lessons of survival seriously. Size, strategy, cooperation, and resilience became their tools. They thrived in a world of fluctuating climates, carving out dominance in every habitat from icy tundras to temperate forests. Their story is one of evolution's relentless creativity, proof that life, when given the chance, not only survives, but transforms the world in ways both spectacular and enduring. Chapter 8. Megafauna Interactions. Predators, Prey, and the Ice Age Ecosystem. 2,000 words. The Ice Age world was a stage set for drama on a scale unseen since the reign of dinosaurs. Massive mammals roamed the landscapes, from the cold steppes of Eurasia to the grasslands of North America and the forests of South America. Each species had evolved strategies to survive in extreme climates, and each interacted with countless others in a web of competition, predation, and cooperation. The relationships between predators and prey, herbivores and their environments, were complex, nuanced, and astonishingly dynamic. To understand the Ice Age, we must explore these interactions, the high-stakes dance of survival that defined a planet reshaped by climate and catastrophe. Herbivores were the architects of the Ice Age ecosystem. Mammoths and mastodons grazing across vast tundras shaped the vegetation, controlling plant growth and spreading seeds across continents. Giant ground sloths and glyptodonts altered the structure of forests and grasslands as they fed, creating pathways that smaller species could use. Herding behavior emerged as a critical adaptation. Groups moved together to protect young, warn of predators, and exploit seasonal food sources efficiently. The survival of a herd depended not only on individual strength but on coordination, vigilance, and communication. Every footprint, every trampling of vegetation left an imprint that affected the entire ecosystem. Predators adapted to these massive herbivores with ingenuity and precision. Saber-toothed cats, apex predators of their day, relied on stealth and strength. Their elongated canines were perfect for delivering lethal bites to soft tissue, and their powerful forelimbs immobilized prey during an attack. Unlike modern predators that often rely on endurance, these hunters were specialists. Ambush predators honed by millions of years of evolution to tackle creatures much larger than themselves. They coexisted with packs of large canids, wolves, and hyena-like scavengers, each filling a unique ecological niche. The competition was intense, and failure meant death. Interestingly, not all interactions were violent. Some herbivores benefited indirectly from predator activity. Carcasses left by saber-toothed cats and other hunters provided food for scavengers, from smaller carnivorous mammals to birds and insects. Nutrient cycling was driven by these interactions, ensuring that energy flowed efficiently through the ecosystem. Predation, it turns out, was not merely destructive, it was a key driver of biodiversity, shaping populations, behaviors, and even the evolution of defensive traits in herbivores. Defensive adaptations among herbivores were astonishingly diverse. Woolly mammoths developed thick fur and layers of fat to survive freezing conditions, while massive size deterred many predators. Mastodons used tusks for defense, digging, and intraspecific combat. Glyptodonts, encased in armored shells, were living tanks, impervious to many predators. Even smaller species like deer and antelope developed speed, agility, and herd-based strategies to evade hunters. Evolution favored creativity, and the interplay of predator and prey drove innovation in form, function, and behavior. Migration patterns added another layer of complexity. Seasonal changes in climate forced herds to travel vast distances in search of food and water. Predators followed these movements, tracking prey across landscapes and learning to exploit patterns in timing and behavior. These migrations reshaped entire ecosystems, influencing vegetation patterns, nutrient distribution, and even the spread of disease. The Ice Age was a world in motion, where survival depended on adaptability, intelligence, and the ability to anticipate the moves of other species. Fossil evidence paints a vivid picture of these interactions. Bite marks on bones reveal predator-prey encounters, some fatal, others survived with evidence of healed injuries. Trackways capture moments of pursuit and evasion. Coprolites, fossilized dung, provide insight into diets and food webs, showing the flow of nutrients through these intricate ecosystems. Every fossil tells a story, a snapshot of life, struggle, and survival in an unforgiving but profoundly rich world. Competition was not limited to predator-prey relationships. Herbivores often competed among themselves for limited resources, especially during harsh winters or droughts. Size, social hierarchy, and foraging strategy became critical factors in survival. Similarly, predators competed for access to prey, territory, and mating opportunities. This constant pressure shaped evolutionary outcomes, leading to highly specialized adaptations and intricate social structures. In the Ice Age, competition and cooperation were two sides of the same coin, each driving the remarkable diversity of life. Climate played an ever-present role in these interactions. Glacial advances and retreats created environmental bottlenecks, forcing populations to adapt or perish. Some species developed tolerance to cold, while others evolved behavioral strategies, like burrowing or seasonal migration to cope. The interplay between climate, predator-prey dynamics, and ecosystem structure created a complex feedback loop that pushed evolution in new directions. The Ice Age was not just a period of survival, it was a crucible of innovation and ecological refinement. By the late Pleistocene, these ecosystems had reached a delicate balance. Mammals dominated the landscape in ways that rivaled the reign of dinosaurs. Herbivores, predators, and scavengers were interdependent, each shaping the other's evolution. Vegetation responded to grazing and trampling, while predators controlled herbivore populations, preventing over-exploitation of resources. Life had adapted to extreme climates, and ecosystems were finely tuned networks of interaction, each species playing its role in the dance of survival. Yet, even in this seemingly stable world, change loomed. Environmental shifts, human expansion, and random disasters would soon challenge these megafauna in unprecedented ways. The Ice Age ecosystems, though resilient, were not invincible. Adaptation and survival had limits, and the lessons of the past, from the extinction of dinosaurs to the rise of mammals, would soon be tested once again. The story of predator-prey interactions during the Ice Age reveals the elegance and brutality of life in motion. It demonstrates that dominance is earned through a combination of size, strategy, cooperation, and adaptability. It shows us that ecosystems are complex, dynamic, and interdependent, and that survival is rarely straightforward. The Ice Age world was a theatre of constant negotiation, where every step, every decision, and every encounter mattered. As we look back, it's astonishing to realize that these interactions shaped the evolution of life in ways that persist to this day. Modern mammals, birds, and even humans carry the legacy of Ice Age adaptations. Herding behavior, predator avoidance strategies, migration instincts, and social cooperation all have roots in this dramatic era. The Ice Age was not just a time of survival, it was a proving ground for the strategies, behaviors, and adaptations that would define the modern world. Chapter 9. Climate Oscillations, Glacial Cycles and Their Influence on Life, 2,000 words. As the Ice Ages progressed, the Earth entered a rhythm of extremes, cycles of glacial advances and retreats that would continue for hundreds of thousands of years. These climate oscillations shaped every aspect of life, creating challenges, opportunities, and pressures that tested the adaptability of species across the globe. Unlike a single catastrophic event like the asteroid that ended the age of dinosaurs, glacial cycles were persistent, rhythmic, and transformative, forcing life to evolve in response to recurring environmental stress. During glacial periods, massive ice sheets expanded across continents, covering much of North America, Europe, and Asia. Sea levels dropped as water became trapped in ice, exposing land bridges that connected continents and allowing species migrations that would otherwise have been impossible. Plants and animals adapted to these new land connections, spreading into previously inaccessible habitats. For mammals, these changes created opportunities for expansion, competition, and colonization, but also increased the risks of resource scarcity and harsh climatic conditions. Herbivores were particularly affected by glacial cycles. The growth and retreat of ice sheets reshaped ecosystems repeatedly, transforming forests into open tundra or steppe and vice versa. Large mammals like mammoths and woolly rhinoceroses adapted by evolving thick fur, fat layers for insulation, and specialized teeth for grazing tough, icy vegetation. Seasonal migrations became critical. Herds had to move with changing food availability, navigating miles of frozen landscapes. Survival demanded stamina, coordination, and an intimate understanding of the environment, a knowledge encoded in behavior, learned over generations. Predators, too, were shaped by these oscillations. Saber-toothed cats, wolves, and other carnivores adapted their hunting strategies to seasonal fluctuations in prey availability. During glacial maxima, when herds concentrated in limited habitable zones, predators could exploit these aggregations, but competition was fierce. Conversely, during interglacial periods, prey dispersed into forests, grasslands, or emerging wetlands, forcing predators to develop tracking, ambush, and endurance hunting strategies. Glacial cycles, in effect, acted as an invisible hand, sculpting evolutionary pathways for both predator and prey. Vegetation responded dynamically to glacial-interglacial oscillations. Forests receded under cold, dry conditions, while grasslands expanded, favoring grazing herbivores. Interglacial. Warming allowed forests to return, benefiting browsers and arboreal species. This constant reshaping of habitats encouraged diversification, as species had to adapt to a mosaic of environmental conditions. Some evolved generalist strategies, capable of exploiting multiple ecosystems, while others specialized, carving niches that would offer evolutionary advantages for millennia. The fossil record vividly illustrates these responses. Teeth-wear patterns, isotopic analysis, and bone structures reveal dietary shifts corresponding to glacial cycles. Migration patterns can be inferred from fossil distribution, indicating that species moved hundreds, sometimes thousands, of kilometers in response to environmental changes. Even predator-prey dynamics can be traced, as carnivore remains frequently show adaptations for hunting different prey, depending on climate conditions. The Ice Age was not static. It was a dynamic laboratory where life continuously tested the limits of adaptation. Glacial cycles also drove speciation and extinction events on a smaller scale. Populations isolated by advancing ice sheets diverged genetically, producing new species over thousands of years. Conversely, species that could not adapt to the fluctuating climate faced extinction. These oscillations created a selective pressure that emphasized flexibility, endurance, and innovation. In many ways, glacial cycles acted as a slow but relentless evolutionary pressure, shaping life in ways more subtle but equally profound as sudden catastrophes like asteroid impacts. Humans eventually entered this dynamic system, although much later in the timeline. Early Homo species evolved during periods of climatic fluctuation, and their survival was intimately linked to understanding and adapting to these oscillations. Hunting strategies, migration patterns, and technological innovations were influenced directly by glacial-interglacial cycles. In essence, these climate oscillations not only shaped non-human species, but indirectly set the stage for human evolution, highlighting the interconnectedness of environmental change and evolutionary trajectories. Ice Age ecosystems were intricate, shaped by the repeated advance and retreat of glaciers. mammals of all sizes, from tiny rodents to mammoths, evolved to navigate changing habitats, exploit emerging food sources, and cope with seasonal extremes. Predators adjusted hunting strategies, herbivores refined foraging and migration behaviors, and plants continuously adapted to shifting soil, moisture, and temperature conditions. This period of oscillating climate demonstrated that adaptability, intelligence, and behavioral innovation were critical for survival in a world of relentless change. Interestingly, glacial cycles also emphasized the importance of social structures. Herding behavior in herbivores became even more essential for navigating vast landscapes and surviving harsh winters. Predator packs evolved more complex coordination to track dispersed prey effectively. The repeated environmental stress of ice sheet expansion reinforced cooperative strategies, shaping not just anatomy but behavior. The Ice Age, in this sense, was as much a test of social ingenuity as it was of physical adaptation. By the end of the Pleistocene, the influence of glacial cycles was unmistakable. Species were finely tuned to the rhythm of climate oscillations, their adaptations honed over tens of thousands of years. Yet even with this sophistication, extinction was never far away. Climate fluctuations, combined with human expansion, would soon challenge the Ice Age megafauna in ways that even evolution could not fully anticipate. The lessons of glacial cycles, resilience, adaptability, and opportunism, were critical for survival, but they also highlighted life's vulnerability to rapid or sustained environmental change. The story of glacial cycles illustrates a profound truth. Earth's climate is a dominant force in shaping life, dictating not only who survives but how ecosystems function, interact, and evolve. Ice and cold were not just destructive, they were creative, forcing species to innovate, diversify, and cooperate. The rhythms of glacial advance and retreat carved evolutionary paths, sculpted behavior, and determined ecological balance. Life, in responding to these oscillations, proved that adaptability is not merely advantageous, it is essential for survival in a dynamic, ever-changing world. Chapter 10. Extinction. Events and human influence. The end of megafauna, 2,000 words. By the late Pleistocene, the Earth was a world dominated by mammalian giants, mammoths, mastodons, saber-toothed cats, giant ground sloths, and a host of other extraordinary creatures. These animals had survived ice, climate fluctuations, and competition, thriving in ecosystems refined by hundreds of thousands of years of evolution. Yet, as history has shown, no species is invincible. Two forces converge to push these megafauna to the brink: environmental change and the rise of a new predator, humans. The climatic instability of the late Pleistocene created a precarious environment for life. Glaciers were retreating, ice sheets receding, and temperatures fluctuating unpredictably. Habitats shifted dramatically. Tundras expanded and contracted, forests thinned, and wetlands fluctuated in size and distribution. Herbivorous megafauna, dependent on consistent food sources, were forced to migrate longer distances and face increased competition. Predators, in turn, adapted their hunting strategies to these changing conditions. Survival had always required resilience, but the late Pleistocene tested it to unprecedented levels. Humans entered this world as opportunistic hunters, equipped with tools, intelligence, and social cooperation that rivaled any other predator. Early Homo sapiens and their contemporaries hunted strategically, often targeting the largest and slowest individuals within herds. Archaeological evidence such as kill sites and butchered bones shows coordinated hunting and sophisticated use of fire and weapons. The arrival of humans introduced a selective pressure no species had encountered before: intelligent, adaptable predators capable of modifying the environment to their advantage. The impact of humans on megafauna was profound. Large mammals that had previously relied on size, armor, or defensive behaviors now faced an entirely new type of threat. Herding strategies, migration routes, and breeding cycles were disrupted. Even the larger species, like mammoths and giant ground sloths, were vulnerable to systematic hunting. Some species declined gradually, while others disappeared abruptly from the fossil record. In many regions, human arrival correlates strikingly with rapid megafaunal extinction, suggesting that hunting played a central role in tipping ecosystems into collapse. Environmental change amplified human influence. As the climate warmed after glacial maxima, habitats shifted rapidly, forests expanded into grasslands, water sources moved, and vegetation patterns altered. These changes strained megafauna, reducing available food and shelter. Humans, adaptable and resourceful, exploited these transitions, moving into newly accessible regions and hunting species weakened by environmental stress. The combination of human predation and climate change created a perfect storm, accelerating the decline of many iconic Ice Age species. Fossil evidence highlights the severity of this dual pressure. Sites across North America, Eurasia, and South America show a sharp decline in large herbivores and predators, coinciding with human colonization. Woolly mammoths, once abundant across tundras and steppes, dwindled to small, isolated populations. Saber-toothed cats disappeared entirely. Giant ground sloths vanished from South America. Even some smaller species vulnerable to combined ecological pressures disappeared. The Ice Age megafauna, masters of survival for millennia, succumbed to forces both natural and human-induced. Interestingly, some species survived by adapting to human presence and environmental change. Smaller mammals, birds and rodents persisted due to their size, reproductive speed, and ecological flexibility. Early humans inadvertently favoured the survival of these species, reshaping ecosystems by removing large competitors and creating niches for smaller animals. The selective pressures humans introduced had lasting evolutionary consequences, influencing which lineages thrived and which vanished. Human influence on megafauna was not solely direct. Habitat alteration, even at a small scale, had cascading effects. Fire use, for example, reshaped landscapes, promoting grasslands over forests and altering food availability for herbivores. Overhunting of keystone species disrupted predator-prey dynamics, triggering further extinctions. Humans became a transformative force in ecosystems, exerting pressures comparable to those of massive glacial cycles or asteroid impacts, but with intelligence and intention driving the change. The extinction of Ice Age megafauna had profound ecological consequences. As large herbivores disappeared, vegetation patterns changed dramatically. Forests reclaimed areas once trampled by mammoths, altering carbon storage and nutrient cycling. Predators dependent on these herbivores faced starvation or shifted to smaller prey, reshaping food webs. Ecosystems reorganized, illustrating the interconnectedness of species and the long-reaching impact of extinction events. Life adapted, but the loss of megafauna left a permanent mark on the planet. This period also offers lessons for understanding modern extinctions. Human activity combined with environmental change continues to drive species decline worldwide. The Pleistocene extinctions serve as a stark reminder that even the most dominant, resilient species can be vulnerable when multiple pressures converge. The strategies mammals and other creatures employed to survive ice, migration, and predation were insufficient against a predator capable of reshaping the landscape and targeting key species at a population level. Yet, even in extinction, there is a story of continuity. Many lineages survived and adapted to new conditions, carrying forward genetic and behavioral traits honed over millions of years. Birds, rodents, and smaller mammals persisted, forming the foundation of modern ecosystems. Humans, having entered this evolutionary arena, would themselves evolve, interacting with the environment and shaping species diversity in profound ways. The end of the megafauna era was not an absolute ending. It was a transformation, a pivot point in Earth's evolutionary history. The story of Ice Age extinctions underscores a central theme. Life is resilient but vulnerable, adaptive yet fragile. Environmental pressures, whether slow and cyclical or sudden and catastrophic, test the limits of species' capabilities. Humans, as a new evolutionary force, accelerated these pressures, demonstrating that intelligence, strategy, and innovation can rival natural forces in shaping life's trajectory. The Pleistocene world was a final proving ground for megafauna, and while many failed, the lessons of survival, adaptation, and ecological interconnectedness endure. By the close of the Pleistocene, the world had been dramatically reshaped. Mammalian giants that once dominated the Earth were largely gone, replaced by smaller, more adaptable species and the growing influence of humans. Ecosystems reorganized, climates stabilized in new patterns, and the stage was set for the rise of modern fauna. The extinction events of this period serve as both a cautionary tale and a testament to life's capacity for adaptation. The end of the megafauna era reminds us that evolution is not about permanence, but flexibility. Species may dominate for millions of years, but even the mightiest can vanish in the face of rapid environmental change and new pressures. Humans, now an emerging ecological force, would carry the lessons of survival forward, shaping life in ways both profound and irreversible. The Earth had experienced extinction, adaptation, and transformation, a cycle as old as life itself, and one that would continue into the present day. Chapter 11: Adaptation: Strategies of Surviving Species. Evolution After Catastrophe, 2,000 words. After the dramatic extinctions of the late Pleistocene, the Earth entered a new chapter of life, one where the survivors of the Ice Age were forced to innovate, adapt, and thrive in a world reshaped by climate, predation, and human influence. The megafauna were gone, leaving ecosystems in flux. But evolution is rarely paused by extinction. Rather, it accelerates, filling empty niches, experimenting with new strategies, and reshaping the balance of life. This chapter explores the remarkable ways surviving species evolved to meet the challenges of a post-catastrophe world. Survival strategies varied widely, shaped by ecological roles, body size, and behavior. Large herbivores that endured, like modern bison and deer, relied on mobility, social cooperation, and flexible diets. Herd structures provided protection, allowed knowledge transfer, and facilitated the exploitation of seasonal resources. These behaviors were refined under the pressures of changing climate and new predators, including humans. Flexibility in diet and habitat choice became a critical determinant of survival, illustrating that adaptability is often more powerful than sheer size. Small mammals and rodents exemplified another strategy: reproductive speed. While larger species struggled to recover from environmental stress and predation, smaller species could reproduce quickly, colonize disturbed habitats, and exploit resources efficiently. Their rapid generational turnover allowed faster evolutionary responses, enabling them to adapt to changing vegetation, climate, and predation pressures. This principle, that survival can favor speed and flexibility over size, would echo across subsequent evolutionary waves. Predators, too, adapted in ingenious ways. With the disappearance of massive prey, large carnivores had to shift strategies. Some specialized in hunting smaller, faster herbivores, developing endurance, social hunting tactics, and heightened sensory capabilities. Others turned to scavenging, exploiting carcasses left by humans or other predators. The extinction of apex species forced carnivores to innovate or face extinction themselves. In essence, the collapse of one group created opportunities for another, illustrating the interconnectedness of ecosystems and the cascading effects of extinction events. Behavioral adaptations became as important as physical ones. Many species developed strategies for coping with human presence, altering activity patterns and avoiding encounters. Nocturnal activity, increased wariness, and habitat shifts became common survival strategies. Species that could anticipate and respond to threats in real time thrived, demonstrating the importance of intelligence, perception, and behavioral flexibility in evolutionary success. Evolution was no longer just about anatomy. It was about problem-solving in a rapidly changing world. Environmental adaptation was also crucial. Post-Ice Age climates were still unstable, with seasonal extremes and regional variability. Plants and animals adapted to these conditions in various ways. Thicker fur or feather insulation, hibernation, migration, and food storage. Birds, for example, diversified into new niches, exploiting both forested and open landscapes. Mammals, too, refined seasonal migration patterns, adjusting to changing resource availability. Each adaptation was a response to a combination of ecological pressures and opportunities, demonstrating the dynamic interplay between organisms and their environment. One of the most remarkable phenomena was adaptive radiation, the rapid diversification of species into new ecological roles. With many niches left vacant by extinct megafauna, surviving species proliferated into forms and behaviors previously unseen. Birds diversified into predatory, scavenging, and seed-dispersing roles. Mammals filled herbivorous, omnivorous, and carnivorous niches across forests, grasslands, and wetlands. This diversification illustrates evolution's creative potential when constraints are removed, highlighting how extinction events, paradoxically, can spur innovation and complexity. Humans played an increasingly prominent role in shaping the evolutionary trajectories of surviving species. By hunting, altering landscapes, and inadvertently introducing selective pressures, early humans influenced which species thrived. Domestication, though still in its infancy, began to affect animal populations, while hunting and habitat modification reshaped ecosystems. Species that could coexist with humans, either by avoiding them or exploiting human-altered environments, gained a critical survival advantage. This interaction underscores the profound and lasting impact humans have had on the evolution of life. Surviving species also developed defensive strategies in response to new predator pressures. Camouflage, agility, social cooperation, and cryptic behaviors became common. Some birds and mammals evolved enhanced sensory capabilities, acute vision, hearing, or olfaction, allowing early detection of predators or competitors. Others adapted to exploit hidden or inaccessible habitats, such as burrows, cliffs, or dense vegetation. Evolution, in this context, became a story of innovation under pressure, highlighting the resourcefulness of life in overcoming adversity. The legacy of these adaptations is still visible today. Many modern mammals, birds, and reptiles carry the evolutionary fingerprints of post-Ice Age survival. Strategies: herding behavior, nocturnal activity, migratory instincts, and reproductive flexibility are all echoes of life adapting to catastrophic change. Even ecosystem structures, from predator-prey dynamics to vegetation patterns, reflect the imprint of species that survived and thrived in the aftermath of extinction events. These adaptations demonstrate the resilience and creativity inherent in life's evolutionary toolkit. Perhaps most striking is the lesson that evolution favors responsiveness, not perfection. Species that survived the Ice Age extinctions were not necessarily the strongest, fastest, or largest. They were adaptable, flexible, and capable of responding to changing circumstances. Behavioral innovation, dietary flexibility, social coordination, and reproductive strategies were just as critical as physical traits. Life, it seems, succeeds not by resisting change, but by embracing it. By examining the strategies of surviving species, we gain insight into the mechanisms that drive evolution in a rapidly changing world. Adaptation after catastrophe is a dynamic, ongoing process, shaped by the interplay of environmental pressures, species interactions, and ecological opportunity. The survivors of the Ice Age extinctions demonstrate the power of resilience, ingenuity, and flexibility, qualities that continue to define life on Earth today. In the aftermath of Ice Age megafauna extinction, life did not merely continue, it flourished in new directions. From small mammals to birds and other surviving species, evolution found ways to exploit empty niches, develop innovative strategies, and thrive in a world transformed by climate, catastrophe, and human influence. The story of post-catastrophe adaptation is a testament to life's enduring creativity and capacity for resilience, a reminder that even in the face of profound loss, survival is possible and evolution is unstoppable. Chapter 12: Modern Echoes: How Ancient Extinctions Shaped Today's Ecosystems. 2,000 words. Even thousands of years after the Pleistocene megafauna vanished, their legacy continues to echo through modern ecosystems. The extinction events of the Ice Age were not mere endings. They were catalysts for transformation, reshaping the structure of life and influencing evolutionary pathways that persist today. From forests to grasslands, rivers to wetlands, the fingerprints of ancient extinctions are still visible, subtly guiding the way species interact, adapt, and thrive in contemporary habitats. One of the most profound impacts of Ice Age extinctions is seen in vegetation patterns. Before the loss of giant herbivores like mammoths and ground sloths, ecosystems were heavily influenced by grazing, browsing, and trampling. These animals controlled tree density, spread seeds across vast landscapes, and maintained open habitats that supported diverse plant and animal communities. With their disappearance, forests expanded in some regions, grasslands receded, and the balance between plant types shifted dramatically. Modern ecosystems, particularly in temperate and boreal zones, retain the structural imprint of these ancient grazers, landscapes that evolved in response to their feeding habits and migratory patterns. Similarly, predator-prey dynamics were fundamentally altered. Apex predators that once relied on megafauna either adapted to smaller prey or disappeared themselves. Wolves, big cats, and scavenging birds had to refine hunting strategies, sometimes splitting into specialized lineages or expanding territories to maintain access to food. These adaptations influenced the distribution, behavior, and population dynamics of surviving species. Even today, predator-prey relationships often reflect historical pressures set in motion during and after the Ice Age extinctions. The cascading effects extended to nutrient cycling and soil composition. Megafauna were ecosystem engineers, redistributing nutrients through dung, carcasses, and foraging behavior. Their absence reduced the rate of nutrient turnover in many habitats, altering soil fertility and affecting plant growth. Modern plant communities often exist in states that differ from those shaped by Pleistocene giants. In some areas, conservationists attempt to mimic these historical roles by reintroducing large herbivores or creating functional analogues to restore ecosystem balance, illustrating just how significant the ecological void left by extinct species remains. Species interactions also shifted. Birds and mammals that survived the extinctions had to adapt to new ecological niches. Small mammals proliferated, exploiting the reduced competition and predation. Herbivorous species diversified their diets, while predators developed increased cooperation or scavenging strategies. In essence, the Ice Age extinctions forced survivors to innovate, leading to modern species compositions that differ dramatically from the pre-extinction world. These changes underline the role of historical contingencies in shaping current biodiversity. Interestingly, the influence of ancient extinctions extends to human evolution and behavior. Early humans interacted with the megafauna, hunting some species to extinction while domesticating or coexisting with others. These interactions shaped human mobility, social organization, and technological innovation. The ecological consequences of these extinctions, in turn, affected human subsistence strategies, agricultural development, and settlement patterns. Modern humans are still navigating a world partially structured by these ancient events, illustrating the intertwined fate of humans and ecosystems. Modern conservation efforts often reveal the lingering impact of Ice Age extinctions. In many regions, species composition, ecosystem resilience, and ecological functions are shaped by the absence of large herbivores and apex predators. Efforts to restore or mimic their roles, such as rewilding projects in Europe and North America, highlight the ecological significance of these ancient losses. The presence of large herbivores or predators can restore nutrient cycles, control vegetation, and rebalance predator-prey relationships, demonstrating that the echoes of Ice Age extinctions are still shaping life on Earth today. Climate resilience is another dimension influenced by ancient extinctions. Large mammals once played a key role in moderating ecosystems' responses to climate change, from grazing patterns to seed dispersal. Their absence has left modern ecosystems more vulnerable to invasive species, habitat fragmentation, and climate extremes. In a sense, the extinction events of the past have set the stage for current environmental challenges, emphasizing the deep connections between historical events and contemporary ecological stability. Behavioral ecology of surviving species also bears the mark of Ice Age pressures. Migration, nocturnal activity, social cooperation, and predator avoidance strategies evolved in response to both environmental variability and human predation. Many of these behaviors persist today, seen in the movements of caribou, elk, and wolves, or the nesting strategies of birds. Evolutionary lessons from the Pleistocene continue to influence survival strategies, demonstrating the long reach of ancient selection pressures. The extinction events of the Ice Age also highlight the interplay of randomness and necessity in evolution. Which species survived was not always predictable. Factors like size, behavior, reproductive strategy, and adaptability played key roles, but chance, such as geographic isolation or timing of human arrival, also determined survival. This combination of deterministic and stochastic forces created the modern array of species and ecosystems we see today. In essence, the world we inherit is a mosaic shaped by both evolutionary pressures and historical happenstance. Studying these modern echoes provides insight into broader ecological principles. It underscores the importance of keystone species, demonstrates the ripple effects of extinction, and illustrates how ecosystems are structured by both past and present interactions. It also offers valuable lessons for conservation biology. Restoring ecological balance often requires understanding historical baselines, including species that are no longer present. The Ice Age extinctions were catastrophic, but they also provide a window into the adaptive potential and resilience of life. By examining the modern echoes of ancient extinctions, we gain a profound appreciation for the continuity of life. Ecosystems are not static. They carry the memory of past events, adaptations, and interactions. The presence, absence, or behavior of species today is informed by the legacies of Ice Age extinctions, demonstrating that history is an active force in shaping ecology. Life is a tapestry woven across millennia, with threads stretching from extinct mammoths to modern forests, rivers, and grasslands. In conclusion, the ancient extinctions of the Pleistocene were not just endings, they were transformations. They reshaped ecosystems, influenced evolutionary trajectories, and set the stage for the biodiversity we observe today. By studying these modern echoes, we see the profound interconnectedness of life, the lasting influence of extinction events, and the remarkable adaptability of species. From soil composition to species behavior, from predator-prey dynamics to human evolution, the lessons of the Ice Age resonate through the present, reminding us that life is resilient, adaptive, and continuously evolving in response to both past and present challenges. Chapter 13, Predicting the Future. Lessons from Mass Extinctions, 2,000 words. Mass extinctions, like those that ended the reign of dinosaurs or the Ice Age megafauna, were more than historical events. They are cautionary tales written in the fossil record, offering profound lessons about resilience, vulnerability, and the delicate balance of life. By studying these events, we can better understand the factors that drive species loss, ecosystem collapse, and evolutionary innovation. Perhaps most importantly, these lessons can help us predict and mitigate the consequences of the environmental challenges facing life on Earth today. One of the most striking patterns in mass extinctions is the interplay between environmental change and biological sensitivity. Species that survived catastrophic events often shared traits like adaptability, ecological flexibility, and behavioral innovation. Conversely, those that specialized in narrow niches or relied on specific environmental conditions were disproportionately vulnerable. This pattern is evident across eras. Dinosaurs fell to a sudden asteroid impact, while Ice Age megafauna succumbed to a combination of human activity and climate oscillations. The lesson is clear. Survival favors versatility over specialization in times of upheaval. Modern ecosystems are already under pressure from a combination of human-induced climate change, habitat fragmentation, pollution, and invasive species. These factors mirror in many ways the pressures of past mass extinctions. Rising temperatures, shifting precipitation patterns, and sea level rise threaten species adapted to stable climates, while overhunting and deforestation replicate the human pressures that drove Ice Age extinctions. By understanding how past species responded, or failed to respond, we can anticipate which organisms are most at risk and implement strategies to preserve biodiversity. One crucial insight from ancient extinctions is the importance of ecological interdependence. Predator-prey dynamics, plant-herbivore interactions, and nutrient cycling all create networks that sustain ecosystems. When key species are removed, these networks can collapse, triggering cascading effects. For example, the loss of large herbivores during the Pleistocene reshaped vegetation patterns and predator populations. Today, the decline of apex predators, pollinators, and keystone species produces similar ripples, highlighting that the extinction of even a single species can have far-reaching consequences. Another lesson lies in the speed of environmental change. Past extinctions occurred over varying timescales, from sudden catastrophic events like asteroid impacts to gradual climatic shifts like glacial cycles. The rate of change often determined whether species could adapt. Rapid shifts allowed little time for evolutionary response, while gradual change favored incremental adaptation. In today's world, climate change is occurring at unprecedented rates, far faster than most species can naturally adjust. This mismatch underscores the urgency of conservation efforts aimed at mitigating rapid environmental disruption. Adaptive strategies that allowed species to survive past extinctions also offer guidance for modern conservation. flexibility in diet, habitat use, reproductive strategy, and social behavior were key to surviving past upheavals. Conservation programs can support similar strategies by maintaining habitat diversity, promoting genetic diversity, and ensuring corridors for migration. Protecting species that exhibit ecological versatility can increase the resilience of entire ecosystems, echoing the survival patterns of the past. The fossil record also emphasizes the unpredictability of extinction. Chance events, asteroid impacts, volcanic eruptions, or human expansion often intersect with underlying vulnerabilities to drive species loss. This unpredictability is a reminder that even well-adapted species can face sudden, catastrophic threats. Modern conservation strategies must therefore account not only for current vulnerabilities, but also for potential unforeseen events, building flexibility and redundancy into ecosystems to withstand shocks. Mass extinctions also illuminate the role of humans as an evolutionary force. Just as early humans contributed to the decline of Ice Age megafauna, modern human activity shapes evolutionary trajectories. Overhunting, habitat destruction, and climate alteration create pressures that favor certain traits and disadvantage others, effectively directing the course of evolution. Recognizing our role in this process is critical. It reminds us that our choices can either accelerate extinctions or support resilience. Interestingly, the aftermath of mass extinctions often sparks evolutionary creativity. Vacant ecological niches allow survivors to diversify, leading to bursts of speciation and ecosystem reorganization. The extinction of the dinosaurs paved the way for mammals to rise. The disappearance of Ice Age giants allowed smaller mammals and birds to flourish. Understanding this pattern offers a hopeful perspective. While extinctions are tragic, they also set the stage for life to innovate and adapt, emphasizing the resilience of evolution even in the face of massive disruption. Applying these lessons to the modern era requires proactive intervention. Conservation biology, ecological restoration, and climate mitigation strategies are informed by the history of mass extinctions. Protecting keystone species, maintaining genetic diversity, restoring degraded habitats, and controlling invasive species are all measures that reflect the evolutionary lessons of the past. By integrating historical understanding with modern technology and policy, we can reduce the risk of catastrophic biodiversity loss and guide ecosystems toward resilience. Finally, mass extinctions teach us that timescales matter. Evolutionary recovery after past catastrophes took thousands or even millions of years. For humans, the lesson is sobering. The effects of current environmental pressures may persist long after immediate impacts are felt. Ecosystems are complex, and recovery is not guaranteed. The choices we make today in energy use, land management, and species protection will echo for generations, influencing the trajectory of life on Earth for millennia. In conclusion, mass extinctions are not just events frozen in the distant past. They are ongoing lessons for the present and future. They highlight the interplay of environmental change, species traits, and ecological interdependence. They show that resilience and flexibility determine survival, that human activity is a powerful evolutionary force, and that the consequences of extinction are long-lasting and far-reaching. By studying the past, we gain insight into the present and guidance for the future, offering a roadmap to navigate the challenges of biodiversity loss, climate change, and ecosystem management. The story of mass extinctions is ultimately one of caution and hope. It warns us of the fragility of life in the face of rapid or sustained pressures, yet it also celebrates the enduring creativity and adaptability of evolution. Our modern ecosystems, shaped by both ancient events and contemporary influence, are living laboratories, reminding us that the lessons of the past are essential for shaping a sustainable, resilient future for all species on Earth. Chapter 14. Conservation Lessons. Preventing the Next Mass Extinction. 2,000 words. The story of life on Earth has been punctuated by mass extinctions, moments when countless species disappeared, ecosystems were upended, and the evolutionary clock was reset. From the asteroid that ended the reign of dinosaurs to the pressures that wiped out Ice Age giants, these events reveal a critical truth. Extinction is a natural part of Earth's history, but human influence has accelerated the process to an unprecedented pace. Today, the challenge is no longer just understanding extinctions, but actively preventing the next one. Modern extinction rates are alarmingly high. Scientists estimate that species are disappearing at rates hundreds, or even thousands of times faster than the natural background rate. Habitat destruction, climate change, overhunting, pollution, and invasive species are driving this loss, echoing the pressures that caused ancient extinctions but magnified by human activity. Unlike past events, however, we have the knowledge, technology, and awareness to intervene. The question is no longer whether extinctions will occur, but whether we can use lessons from the past to prevent catastrophic loss. One of the most important lessons comes from understanding keystone species, organisms that play a disproportionately large role in maintaining ecosystem structure and function. The disappearance of megafauna in the Pleistocene, for example, reshaped landscapes, altered vegetation patterns, and affected predator-prey dynamics. Today, apex predators like wolves, tigers, and sharks fulfill similar roles. Protecting these species is not just about conserving charismatic animals, it's about preserving the ecological balance that supports countless other species. Conservation strategies focused on keystone species create cascading benefits throughout ecosystems. Habitat preservation is another critical focus. Ancient extinctions often coincided with drastic environmental changes that reduced available habitats. Today, human-driven habitat destruction, deforestation, urbanization, and agricultural expansion mirrors these past pressures. Protecting large, connected areas of wilderness allows species to maintain viable populations, migrate in response to environmental change, and interact within intact ecosystems. Corridors and protected areas are essential tools in maintaining resilience and preventing local extinctions from snowballing into global losses. Genetic diversity is a third crucial lesson. Populations with greater genetic variation are more resilient to environmental change, disease, and predation pressures. The Pleistocene extinctions demonstrated that small, isolated populations were particularly vulnerable. Modern conservation emphasizes the importance of maintaining or restoring genetic diversity, whether through habitat connectivity, captive breeding programs, or reintroduction efforts. Diversity is evolution's lifeline, allowing species to adapt and persist in a changing world. Behavioral and ecological flexibility are equally important. Species that survived past mass extinctions often exhibited adaptable behaviors, generalist diets, flexible habitat use, and social cooperation. Conservation strategies can encourage these traits by fostering environmental heterogeneity and reducing pressures that force specialization, protecting the ability of species to respond to change, rather than locking them into rigid ecological roles, increases the chances of survival in a world increasingly altered by humans. Humans themselves must also adapt. Conservation success requires not just protecting species, but addressing the root causes of biodiversity loss. Climate mitigation, sustainable resource use, pollution reduction, and careful land management are all essential. Unlike past extinctions, where environmental pressures were largely beyond the control of species, today we have the capacity to act intentionally, shaping outcomes for life on Earth. This perspective reframes conservation as an active, ethical responsibility rather than a passive endeavor. Restoration ecology is another powerful tool. By reintroducing species that were extirpated locally, creating functional analogues for extinct species, and rehabilitating degraded ecosystems, humans can partially restore the ecological processes lost during previous extinctions. For example, rewilding projects in Europe and North America aim to reintroduce large herbivores and predators, restoring nutrient cycles, controlling vegetation, and improving biodiversity. These projects show that, with effort and planning, humans can reverse some of the impacts that historically drove ecosystems out of balance. Public engagement and education are also key. Lessons from mass extinctions resonate most when people understand the consequences of species loss and the importance of biodiversity. Awareness campaigns, citizen science, and community-based conservation initiatives can empower individuals to contribute meaningfully to ecosystem preservation. When humans become stewards rather than exploiters, the likelihood of preventing catastrophic biodiversity loss increases. Interestingly, technology offers new avenues for conservation. Satellite monitoring, genetic sequencing, drones, and artificial intelligence allow unprecedented insights into population trends, habitat use, and species interactions. These tools enable rapid response to threats, targeted interventions, and long-term monitoring of conservation outcomes. Technology, when paired with ecological understanding and historical lessons, enhances our ability to prevent the next mass extinction. Finally, the story of past extinctions offers a humbling perspective. Life is resilient, but it is not invincible. Species that survived ancient upheavals did so through flexibility, innovation, and sometimes sheer luck. Modern extinctions are largely avoidable, a stark contrast to the randomness of past events. By combining ecological science, conservation strategies, technology, and ethical responsibility, humans have a unique opportunity to act as custodians of life rather than accelerators of its loss. In conclusion, preventing the next mass extinction requires a multifaceted approach informed by the lessons of the past. Protecting keystone species, preserving and connecting habitats, maintaining genetic diversity, encouraging behavioral flexibility, and addressing human impacts are all critical. Restoration projects, public engagement, and technological innovation further enhance our capacity to safeguard biodiversity. The ancient extinctions were catastrophic, but they also provide a roadmap. Understanding how life responded to past pressures equips us to navigate the challenges of the present. Conservation is not merely a scientific endeavour, it is a moral imperative. The fate of countless species, ecosystems, and even human societies depends on the choices we make today. By learning from the history of life on Earth, from asteroid strikes to ice age upheavals, we can strive to prevent the next mass extinction, ensuring that the story of life continues with richness, diversity, and resilience for generations to come. Chapter 15: The Future of Life, Evolution, Extinction, and Humanity's Role. 2,000 words. As we reach the end of this journey through the rise and fall of species, mass extinctions, and evolutionary resilience, a central question emerges. What does the future hold for life on Earth? The fossil record, from the age of dinosaurs to the Ice Age megafauna, offers a rich narrative of adaptation, catastrophe, and renewal. But now, humans are not just observers of this story. We are active participants, shaping ecosystems, influencing evolutionary trajectories, and determining which species will survive and which may vanish. One of the most pressing challenges of the present is understanding the consequences of rapid environmental change. Climate change is altering habitats at a pace unprecedented in geological history. Rising temperatures, shifting precipitation patterns, ocean acidification, and extreme weather events are placing immense stress on species already struggling to adapt. The past teaches us that when environmental change outpaces the ability of species to respond, extinction is likely. Today, many species are facing precisely this scenario, and human intervention is crucial to prevent catastrophic losses. Human activity continues to shape the evolutionary landscape in unique ways. Urbanization, agriculture, pollution, and deforestation create selective pressures that favor certain traits and disadvantage others. Species that can thrive alongside humans, generalists, fast breeders, and those capable of exploiting human-altered environments, are more likely to persist. Conversely, specialists, slow-reproducing species, and those dependent on stable ecosystems face heightened extinction risk. In this sense, humans act as both environmental engineers and evolutionary filters, guiding the trajectory of life on a global scale. Technological innovation provides tools to mitigate these pressures. Conservation biology, genetic research, and ecological monitoring allow unprecedented insight into species' vulnerabilities and adaptive potential. Techniques like assisted migration, captive breeding, and genetic rescue can support populations at risk of extinction. Even the idea of de-extinction, bringing back species lost to the past, is being explored, reflecting humanity's growing capacity to influence evolution intentionally. While these interventions are ethically and scientifically complex, they demonstrate the unprecedented role humans play in shaping life's future. Yet, the lessons of past extinctions remind us that technology alone is not enough. Ecosystems are networks of interdependent species, and removing one element can have cascading effects. Large-scale habitat preservation, protection of keystone species, and maintenance of ecological connectivity are essential to sustain biodiversity. The Ice Age extinctions illustrate that when critical species disappear, ecosystems are reshaped in ways that persist for millennia. Protecting ecological integrity today ensures that evolutionary potential is preserved for the future. The future of life is also intimately tied to human behavior and ethics. Conservation success depends not just on science, but on societal values, policy decisions, and cultural commitment to sustainability. Reducing carbon emissions, preventing habitat destruction, controlling invasive species, and supporting biodiversity-friendly practices are all actions that influence which species will survive. Unlike the random catastrophes of the past, humans now have the power to act preemptively, steering the course of life rather than reacting to its consequences. Evolution itself will continue, regardless of human intervention. Life is dynamic, constantly experimenting through genetic variation, natural selection, and adaptation. New species will emerge, old ones may disappear, and ecosystems will continue to reorganize in response to environmental pressures. However, the pace and direction of these changes are increasingly influenced by humans. Our choices, from conservation to exploitation, will determine the resilience and composition of life on Earth for generations to come. One hopeful perspective is that life's resilience is extraordinary. Throughout history, Earth has recovered from catastrophic extinctions, often emerging more diverse and complex than before. While the current epoch presents unprecedented challenges, the adaptive capacity of species, coupled with human ingenuity, offers the potential for recovery and renewal. By acting thoughtfully and proactively, we can help life navigate this period of change, preserving evolutionary potential and ecological richness. The interplay of extinction and adaptation is ongoing. As species respond to human-induced pressures, we are witnessing rapid evolutionary changes, shifts in behavior, morphology, and reproductive strategies. Urban wildlife, for example, demonstrates remarkable adaptability to human-altered landscapes, while some marine species adjust migratory patterns in response to changing ocean conditions. These adaptations are echoes of the same evolutionary processes that allowed species to survive past mass extinctions, showing that life is continually resilient, inventive, and responsive. Ultimately, the story of life's future is inseparable from humanity's role. We are the first species capable of observing, understanding, and actively influencing extinction processes on a global scale. This power carries immense responsibility. Our choices will determine not only which species persist, but also the structure, function, and beauty of ecosystems for centuries to come. The fossil record is clear. Extinction is irreversible for those who disappear. Yet, humanity has the unprecedented capacity to prevent loss, foster adaptation, and guide evolution toward a sustainable future. In conclusion, the journey from dinosaurs to Ice Age giants to modern ecosystems highlights a central truth. Life is resilient, but not invulnerable. Mass extinctions are reminders of the fragility and dynamism of life, and the future will be shaped by both natural pressures and human influence. By learning from the past, protecting biodiversity, embracing sustainable practices, and supporting adaptive strategies, we can ensure that the story of life continues, rich, diverse, and resilient. The next chapter of Earth's history is unwritten, and humanity stands at the pen. The choices we make today, in conservation, sustainability, and stewardship, will echo through time, determining the fate of countless species and the legacy of life itself. Evolution will continue, extinction will occur, and ecosystems will change. But with knowledge, foresight, and commitment, we can help ensure that the narrative of life is one of resilience, adaptation, and enduring wonder.